Chapter 6, Poppy by Avi, standing before Mr. Ocax. The leaves of the oak trees around Mr. Ocax's oak shielded him from the rain, but Poppy and her father were being drenched. The owl's head, moreover, was pulled down between his wings, while his eyes, enormously wide, were unblinking, gave Poppy the sensation that there was nothing she might do or even think of doing which he would not see. To Poppy, he seemed to be pure power and fury. Wanting to look away, she glanced at the base of Mr. Ocax's tree. There lay what appeared to be a mound of pebbles. Gradually, a ghastly realization came over her. What she was seeing was a mound of Mr. Ocax's up-chucked pellets, the closely packed and undigested bits of fur and bone from his dinners. The vision made her blood turn cold. Only the sound of Mr. Ocax's sneering voice jolted her back to alertness. "What do you want, Lungwort?" the owl demanded, his claws continually flexing on his perch. Lungwort, holding cap in hand like an empty bucket, said, "May I wish you a very pleasant evening, Mr. Ocax." "It's not very pleasant," Mr. Ocax returned with a snarl. "No, well, you're absolutely right there, Mr. Ocax," Lungwort replied, straining to sound jaunty. But April showers, as the song goes, bring May flowers, and Mr. Ocax clacked his beak. "Lungwort, it's summer. Did you come here to sing me idiot songs, or do you have something important to say?" "Well, in fact, I did bring—" "Hurry up! I've not eaten my dinner yet, and I'm hungry." "Well, of course," Lungwort said. I understand perfectly." Lungwort hastily put his hat, not noticing until too late it was filled with rain. Water cascaded over his head. With a nervous shake, he fumbled to unroll his speech paper. Before he could get it out, Mr. Ocax's eyes grew bigger. "Who's that?" he demanded as he moved his head about to bring Poppy into better focus. "Forgive me," Lungwort said. "I've been rude. This is one of my dutiful daughters. Poppy, step forward. Look up. There's the good mouse. Mr. Ocax, may I introduce Poppy to you?" Prodded by her father, she stepped forward gingerly. All she could see was Mr. Ocax's eyes. She felt not just looked at, but attacked. "Poppy, he growled. "I think we've already met." "One of my sweetest," Lungwort offered. Mr. Ocax ignored him. Instead, he said, "What happened to your nose, girl?" I scraped it." "A close call, I'd say." "Yes, sir." "Little girl mice should be more careful." "Yes, sir." "Do you understand me?" Poppy longed to run away. Lungwort nudged her. "Poppy dear, Mr. Ocax asked you if you were understanding him." "Yes, sir, I do," Poppy squeaked with a bob of her head. "All right then," Lungwort said. "Now be a good girl and come stand under my tree while I talk to your father." Hating herself for acting so fearful, queasy at the thought of going closer to the mound of pellets, Poppy appealed to her father with a look, but Lungwort, however, only nodded. "Move it!" Mr. Ocax snapped. Averting her eyes from the pellets, Poppy crept towards the tree, the flag dragging behind her, but when she reached the spot, she was unable to resist the fascination of the horrible mound. Once she looked, she caught sight of something that glittered. "All right, Lungwort," Mr. Ocax said. "Let's hear what you have to say." "Thank you, sir, thank you." Lungwort held out his piece of paper. Now the thimbleful of water, as well as the rain, had drenched it. All the same, he tried to read. "Whereas Mr. Ocax, great horned owl, ruler of Dimwood Forest, reign, who, out of the kindness of wisdom, protects all members of the deer mice family, whereas the said family of deer mice living in Grey House in return for Mr. Ocax's protection have agreed to ask his permission whenever they move about. Whereas the deer mice family, having grown so great in numbers, need a second place of habitation so as to maintain and enhance the lives with sufficient food. And Lungwort paused to shake the paper. And what? Mr. Ocax demanded. The paper is somewhat wet, Lungwort apologized. So is the style, Mr. Ocax observed. Go on. Lungwort cleared his throat and continued to read. Whereas Mr. Ocax, protector of deer mice, is famous for his kindness, generosity, and compassion. Thereof, stop. Yes? Repeat that. What? That line about me. About kindness, generosity, and compassion? Right. I like it. That's well written. Yes, thank you. I wrote it. Whereas Mr. Ocax, protector of deer mice, is famous for his kindness and generosity and compassion. Thereof, said deer mice of said Grey House humbly petition to Mr. Ocax to will you get to the point? Mr. Ocax screeched in exasperation. I'm sorry, Lungwort said. The rain has washed away the rest of my writing. Then just dump it and say what you want, the owl boomed. We humbly request your permission, Lungwort said, to move. Move? Yes. Why? I said we are too many. We need more food. Where do you want to move? To New House. First, Mr. Ocax blinked. Next, he swivels his head around, frowning, first at Lungwort, then down at Poppy, then again at Lungwort. Finally, he said, You mean that new place up along the tar road beyond Newfield? Poppy thought she heard something new in Mr. Ocax's voice. She tried to grasp it. Yes, sir. Mr. Ocax hesitated. Well, have you been there? Now Poppy was sure it was uncertainty that she was hearing. Have you been there? Mr. Ocax demanded shrilly. Well, the truth is, Lungwort said, my friend, Mr. Yes or no? The owl screamed. Well, no, not exactly, but my friend told me it would make an excellent source of food for half of my family and Lungwort, Mr. Ocax interrupted, I forbid you to move to New House. What? Lungwort gasped, flapping the rain away from his face with a paw. The word had all but struck him in his throat. Permission denied, Lungwort. You cannot move to New House. But, why, sir? Because I said so. But the Grey House area does not provide enough food. It's urgent that some of us move so we can survive and no New House. Now, I've got a dinner to catch, so you better skedaddle, unless, of course, you want to please me by leaving your daughter. Then, the owl chuckled, I might reconsider. But, Mr. Ocax leaned forward. Whoo! Whoo! He wailed in his loudest but lowest voice. The sound exploded over them. Poppy, clamping paws to ears, ran from under the tree towards her father, who was still standing there, stammering. But, come on, Papa, Poppy urged, trying to turn her father around. We'd better go. And with difficulty, she turned him. Lungwort! Mr. Ocax called suddenly. Lungwort whirled so fast the thimble fell off his head. Bowing, smiling, he began. You were just teasing, Wort. Listen to me, Lungwort, Mr. Ocax cried. I have 2 more things to say to you. First, pass the word among your friends that I've spotted a new porcupine around Dimwood. Porcupine? Lungwort echoed dumbly. A particular vicious one. But don't worry, I'll protect you. Second, it's about your daughter there. If you want a reason for my refusal, Ask her how she and I met before. Reason? She didn't ask permission to go to the hill. That's why you can't move to Newhouse. Yes, but beat it, Lungwort, now! Come on, Papa. We better leave. Lungwort glanced about for his thimble hat. It had rolled away. It was Poppy who retrieved it and put it on his head. Resigned, a sagging Lungwort allowed himself to be led away. Poppy glanced at her father. All traces of dignity were gone. The wetness that ran down his face was not rain, but tears. Poppy hardly tried to keep the flag aloft, and as they trudged home, she kept stealing looks into one of her paws. In it was clenched something she had pried away from one of Mr. Ocax's pellets. Ragweed's earring.